Hello and welcome back to Woodhill Park. I'm up in the loft and it's rather warm, but I have done another project and I thought you might be interested to see what I've been up to. Hello and welcome back to Woodhill Park. Well, I'm back up in the loft, be it rather hot up here. I thought you might like to know what I've been up to just of late after buying this Class 91, scouring the internet for it and luckily finding it in a little model shop in Birmingham. I'm really happy with it, but I've got a DVT that I can run with it. And the DVT by Hornby is a new version and the livery doesn't really match, as you can see. I think it's the seagull grey is miles out, so the livery's not very good. I also fancy running this DVT with my Class 87 rather than the 225, so that left me a dilemma. What do I do to run a train with this new 91? So this update is all about me showing you what I did, and that was buy an old version of the Class 91 and use this as a DVT, be it with pantograph as well. I'm not sure whether they ever run with two pantographs. I think I may have seen footage of it running with one pantograph either end, but one pantograph not being used out of the pair. But I've scoured footage and I can't find this footage, so I could be wrong, as most of the time it run with just a DVT 225 version. And I'm sure there's loads of you screaming out there that it wouldn't be realistic, but it's quite a good model, this old 1990s model. The only thing it hasn't got is lights, and the wheels are too large and cause problems with DCC issues, shorting of the track. So what I did was decide that I wanted to add lights and DCC capability to it, as well as improving the wheels and the running ability of it. So I'm going to show you how I added lights just at this end after changing the bodywork around a bit, and also how I altered the wheels and added all wiper pickups. I didn't actually film the conversion of the lights, as it was quite complicated, and I did wonder whether I was going to ruin the model. Be it only an old model, it still costs £30 second hand, but you know, I didn't have every confidence that the lights would look very good after I'd finished, but in reality it did come out really well. So what I have done is just, I've got some still photos of it and I talk you through how I converted it. As well as adding lights to the old version, I actually did have a go at sort of detailing bits. So the plastic handrails I did paint them silver so that they stand out more. Roof vents painted black like the new version by Hornby, and I painted, I don't know if you can see it, windscreen wipers on the front, which come out reasonably well as well. The lights do work well, but I do need to put a resistor in to take some of the brightness away. They're a bit too bright. There was bleed through the body, which I sort of blacked out to stop it coming through the plastic, but they are too bright compared with the up-to-date version that has got built-in lights anyway. I managed to pick this up. There were spares for the up-to-date 91 and adapt the end of this so it would take the LEDs, and I'm very pleased with the outcome, and just with a bit more tweaking, getting the brightness right. And also I need to do something about the wheels on this loco, as it's a 1990s version, I think, or late 80s. The flanges on the wheels are too wide, and I do get occasional shorts on the DCC, but hopefully I can solve some better wheels. Also the pickups, I need to work on them and maybe put new pickups on the wheels, as it's not very efficient at picking up the voltage from the rails continuously. And it might involve a stay alive as well, but it's got DCC controlled lights now, but only at this end. I didn't think there was any point in fitting them at the other end, as it's not going to run sort of tail first at all, not at this end anyway, and it wouldn't have lights on between the carriages anyway. But sadly the up-to-date 91 does have tail lights that you can't turn off, so that's a bit of a nuisance, but so it has to run with tail lights facing the coach. But as I said, I'm not bothering to put them in this, so it definitely won't have tail lights. Even though I didn't film this conversion, I can show you the results. And trying to think, the first thing I went about doing was cutting the chassis at this point to put a slot in to put this board in. Now these boards are replacement boards that you can get for the current up-to-date Class 91, and Hornby do a set of these, sort of, I suppose, to replace either end. They come with a little bezel that goes over the LEDs to sort of make them so they're contained light wise, and so there's two of those, two sets, and then you get a piece of plastic that I suppose is part of the conversion or part of the replacement, but I didn't need that, so I put one set at the front end. But I think I've already previously said I'm not bothering with the other end because it's going to be up against the coaches and will be off all the time anyway. So I could do it at a later date, but I'm not too worried. So as I said, I cut a slot in here and spent a bit of time trying to get it the right height with the bodywork. And then the bodywork, I cut in two slots very carefully in line with the front lighting array, which I removed the false lighting sort of bar, you might call it, that was just black with stickers on, and used the centre bit. So cut the centre bit out, used the centre bit, and added some cut down plastic, clear plastic. The plastic was just off a Oxford die-cast box. It was a nice thickness to go in the gap, and I just trimmed that down. Oops, not on camera very well. I'll just alter the camera touch. Yeah, I just cut the Oxford die-cast box around, cutting, I think it was about just over 2mm width, and try not to scratch the plastic, and then chopped it up into lengths and filed it down so the corners are rounded, and that's what I come up with, and I thought that was pretty good. You look at that compared with the up-to-date 91, it doesn't look bad at all. And I used some glue and glaze, so if anything went on the glazing it was clear once it dried. I found that I was getting light bleed as the LEDs are quite bright, so I blacked out the inside. Also the LEDs are too bright anyway, so I need to add a resistor, which I may or may not have already said, as I'm doing this video as a piece part thing really. So this is a few days on since I filmed the previous stuff. But anyway, I have done those sort of jobs, and it all lines up pretty well. And I've had it running around the layout, and it lights up nice after adding a DCC socket, and just a run-of-the-mill DCC chip 8-pin. So, but the problems I've got at the moment, I've disconnected all the motor and stuff. It still sits here, so it could be used again, and it adds good weight. Is the wheels, they are the flanges are very wide and deep, and they do cause a few shorts because it's an older version than the 91. So I've got to do something about this. It's not really working, and I think adding all wipers to the wheels will help. So I think that's what I'll be doing next. I bought a couple of replacement drive wheels, or a couple of pairs, as you can get them for the modern day 91, and they're a lot thinner wheels and thinner flanges. It's a shame I won't be using the bearings in the drive cog, but I will keep those as spares just in case I have a problem with my existing up-to-date 91, and I plan to use those, they'll both be insulated wheels, and add wipers to the side of the bogie. So, oops, gotta find the camera. Yeah, wipers on the side of here, so I have to insulate it because the bogies on these have got metal chassis that will just short out everything. So I have to work out what I'm going to do there, and then solder on some wires to sort of connect up the connection with the trank. So that's what I'm going to do now. But I'm not sure I'm going to do it on camera because it's going to be a lot of fiddling about and then scratching my head what I'm going to do. I've just given it a run around the layout and it works fine. I've just got to also put wires onto the contacts now, but there's nothing shorting out with the DCC, and just a case of taking the bogies apart again and soldering the wires on. I could try and solder down there, but it's not worth it. I'll take them off again. But there's a bit of drag on it because of all the contacts I've now put on, or wipers, what you want to call them. But you know, they've now got spring-loaded wipers that are independent totally to the chassis, and there's no way they're going to short out. I didn't have to insulate both sides. I could have insulated one, but I didn't want the metalwork in the middle to be live really. I just thought there's less chance of any short if I insulate both, and that's what I've done. And it goes for the front as well. Yeah, the front with the motor still intact, even though I'm not using it. It acts as a good weight, and possibly could be reused if I ever wanted to change it back, but I can't see myself doing that. So this has got wipers on it, and I just need to solder the wires on as well, and then just add those to the socket on the DCC setup I've got here on the chassis. So I'm going to do that now, just solder wires onto the contacts, and that should be it, hopefully. Right, I've done all the wiring, didn't film all of it, a bit difficult to film, but I've got it back together and I can explain what I've done. So they've got separate contacts either side of the bogie, soldered on, going to the relevant pads on the DCC socket I've got in here, and that goes for the front and back. I've then made sure the wiring's out the way of the bogie as it swivels on both ends, and none of the wiring, including the plug-in DCC chip, is going to interfere with the screw that comes through to screw the housing on. The resistor that I had in place for the rear red lights, or the LEDs, I found that the LEDs were too bright, so it was a 1k resistor, so I've added a 470 ohm resistor to it to make it nearly 1.5k, and that's dimmed the brightness of the lights down nicely because the red LEDs were far too bright. Now the white ones are fine. So that's pretty much it. I drilled some holes up this end to take the wires from the bogie through, and then I'll just strap the wires up, tie them up out of the way so nothing interferes with anything, and I'll just put this into place and try and keep the wiring out the way of the hole for the screw. But that's pretty much it. Now it's time just to put the cover on it. Cover on. place and then screwed up. I did give it a quick test on the track without the cover on, and it was doing everything I wanted, including the LEDs being a bit duller than I first had them, which is better. And so this is now all separately supplied with power from each wheel via these wipers that I've glued in place. So I should have, well, they've got 4 axles picking up sort of the left and right rails, just as you would on a modern day sort of model if you bought it. So there shouldn't be interference with any contact at all. I don't think I need a stay alive, because I think it's just the number of contacts I was lacking. And also the wheels have now been replaced with nice sort of fine gauge wheels with thinner flanges and not these great big chunky things that keep shorting out the track, especially across the points. So hopefully all should be well, fingers crossed. Hopefully you can see this okay. I've now got the dummy end of the 225 on the track that I've now sort of adapted with the lights in place, which I can switch on, and hopefully the brightness of the red LEDs is a little bit dimmer than it was. I'll have to see whether I like it or not, and I'll alter the resistor if necessary, but I think that's a lot better. And if I swap over to the headlights are nice and bright, and I don't mind them being that bright. If I change my mind, I can always change the resistor, so that's not a problem. But adding wipers now, everything is totally independent, and having better wheels on it, it should be no problem at all for the DCC system. It makes a rubbing sound as it goes round a bit more than it did, because it's now got wipers and all the wheels, but this rubbing sound isn't really too much drag on the train, and it gives it a sound possibly almost like a rushing sound like you would get from an electric train. So electric locomotive may sound very similar. I haven't got a sound chip in the 91 yet, the other end, but I think Hornby's done a profile now, so I may well be adding a sound chip to the 91 driving end. But at least now I've got a proper dummy car that looks the part, pretty much the same livery that matches, and I don't have to use a DVT. She's running round fine now. There's not so much as a flicker from the LEDs on the dummy ends of the 225, so I don't need a stay alive. So cured all the problems, made it more up-to-date model. Very happy with that. Just in case you wanted to know what the wheel sets were, it was 2 sets of these, which you end up with 4 pairs of wheels, and they come with bearings and drive cogs, which I removed and just used the plain wheel, which is insulated both ends, allows you to put wipers in. in the not too distant future I'll add some buffer beam detail to this as well, and see if there's any other details that I can add to make it a little bit more real. I did add the windscreen wipers with a pen and they don't look too bad. So it's amazing what you can add. You don't have to buy brand new all the time, and this second hand 225 from the 1990s has worked out really well. As I said, I don't know if it ever ran with two driving ends with pantographs. I have a feeling I've seen footage with it with just one pantograph in use, because I think they might have experimented with using two pantographs, and there was like a ripple in the overhead power line as one went before the other and caused like a wave motion. So I don't think they were ever run properly, other than experimental wise, with two pantographs engaged. But I think I may have seen two pantographs, one with a pantograph not being used while the other one is in use, on a train that I've seen some footage on. But long term, I think I will be converting a 225 DVT over to this sort of update I've done, and I'll be looking for the dummy version of the 225 second hand to do a similar conversion. Well, that's just about it. From a sweltering loft, I'll say goodbye and see you next time. It may be a fair time though, as these temperatures are just too hard to do anything in. I enjoyed doing this little project, but it's pretty much all you can do really. No big projects, and even this was a struggle in the heat, as I did most of it in the loft at my bench. But cheers for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.